blessed last year to go on vacation out in Arizona. Last July of 2021. And my wife, and then our youngest daughter, Mackenzie, we all three went out there to Arizona. And before we went out to Arizona, I had called, because I've been in the zoning industry for 30 years, so I travel quite a bit. As you know that, Tanika. I travel coast to coast. I'm always on the road, and call me the road warrior. And so before we went out there, because we had been in Florida in the spring, obviously I was checking on what the temperature was as far as the pandemic is concerned. If the virus was active out there, Arizona, because I didn't know. And so I called my buddy out there that I handle account with. He said, "It's good out here, you're good to come out here." I told my wife and daughter, I said, our youngest daughter had never seen the Grand Canyon State. I said, "We'll go out there to Arizona, Lord willing. We'll fly out to Arizona. We'll do a whole week of Clark Griswold traveling." That's who I am. It's Clark W. Griswold when I travel. Try to pack 8 things into 5 days. That's me. Anyway, we got out there, and lo and behold, as soon as we landed, the pandemic had hit pretty hard out there, and it came over from California, and it was what was called the Delta strain, and the Delta strain was a real big killer with COVID. I'm sure you guys have all known someone that's got COVID, or maybe you even had COVID. Okay. Unfortunately, well, I should say fortunately, 10% of the population that gets COVID gets it to the degree that I get it. The other 90%, much more fortunate. I guess I was the lucky one, because I was one of the 10 percentile that got what I got. So we did a whole week of vacation traveling out there, Shirley, and I was talking to met Sister Shirley earlier today, and I told her, I said, "Well, that's my mom's name." So I'm not trying to single you out, but I might call that out because I'm comfortable with the name of Shirley. Okay, but I love you, Shirley. I do. We got back from Arizona, and I wasn't feeling best, and my wife started feeling a little bit puny too. That next Monday, we got back on Saturday. That next Monday, I told my wife, I says, "I can't go back out on the road." I was ready to. I had some stuff I needed to do out in Ohio and Pennsylvania. I said, "I can't go out there. I just don't feel like it." And I said, "I'm gonna just kind of see how the day goes." And then by that Wednesday, my wife says, "We're gonna go get tested for COVID." Of course, you're like, "Oh, okay," because you just don't know. Okay, so we got tested, and lo and behold, we both turned positive. So I think I might have brought it to her. Sorry about that. I think I picked it up at a ball game, but I can't pin that down for sure. But anyway, so on Wednesday we tested positive for COVID. So they tell you to drink the liquids and all that kind of stuff. So by that week, into that week, in that weekend, Brother Frank, I felt bad, brother. I was starting to feel really bad. My wife was feeling bad too, but not as bad as I was. And she was starting to get a little concerned. And I was too. And come Monday, that following Monday morning, I woke up and apologized. I'm a very tender-hearted person. I do cry. I'm not ashamed to say that I cry. Okay? By that Monday, when I woke up that next morning, my oxygen level was down in the 70s. To give you an idea, I don't know if any of you folks know what the normal oxygen level is, but when you're breathing room air, it should be around 95 to 97, unless you're doing some serious activity. You look like an athlete. Maybe you do, if you went out and played, if you ran or played basketball, because I did all that stuff too back years before you did. Okay, I'm an old guy, 57. So it was down in the 70s, so I was struggling to breathe. And my wife said, "That's enough, I'm taking you to the ER in Muncie, the hospital IU Health." So she took me to the ER, and I'm a very, very competitive guy, because I play a lot of sports. and I'm in sales. And I loved, just like Tanika said, I love to show Jesus in my life. I would walk into accounts, whether I was in Florida or California, or Washington or wherever, they go, what is wrong with you? I go, there's nothing wrong with me. I got Jesus in my heart. That's my foundation. I'm happy in the Lord. That's my foundation. I don't need alcohol. I don't need drugs. I got Jesus right here. That's something good in all of us, is what he's done to our heart. Right? We're all condemned to the flesh. So anyway, she pulls me up to the curb, and I'm like, stop right here. I got to run in and get on an oxygen machine. And there was a couple in front of us, and hurry up, honey, I want to beat them in. I said, I need to breathe. So I walked in there, and the guy said, well, let me get someone. I said, I said, you're the guy I need to talk to. I said, I need to be put on oxygen. He goes, well, what's going on? I said, I can't breathe. I was really grasping for my breath. You know, if you've ever had that before, but I hope and pray you don't. It's a very terrible feeling. It really is. So we go in there, and immediately they put me on like a CPAP machine, okay, to help me breathe. And that was, so that was on Monday. And then by Wednesday, that wasn't doing anything. And I apologize, honey, if I missed a few things. I'm trying to cover all the bases. I tried to get her to come up here, stand with me, but she won't. I get it. So by Wednesday, they said, this CPAP machine's not helping Jeff. And my wife was at home with COVID, so she could come to the hospital with me. That's a terrible feeling when you can't have your loved one with you. But our daughter was with me. So by Wednesday, they put me on the ventilator, Sister Shirley. They put me on life support. And because that was just something that I could know I had to have it. And they had the vet maxed out. Okay, so that the rest of that week, and then shortly thereafter, I was out of it. They intubated me. They put an intubation tube down my throat. Thank God, buddy, I did not know they did it, because I hear it's very painful. So they intubated me, and so I was intubated. They had me on the vent full blast, and I wasn't improving. And that was bad, Shirley. That was real bad. And they said, on Sunday, they called my wife, the doctor did, they said, you might want to come to the hospital. And that kind of thing is like, well, you might want to see your loved one before they go. But, okay, this is just how powerful God is, okay? Because in my bio, I didn't put that I like bragging on God, and boy, do I like bragging on God. You know, we all need to brag on God. So, there's this thing called the Ecmo Machine. I've never heard of it either. Neither has my wife or my daughter. It's spelled E-C-M-O, Ecmo. And what the Ecmo Machine was the idea behind it was for little infants, little babies that were born with lung issues. Okay? And what it did was, say it was a Nick baby or something like that, it would clean up their lungs. Because what it was, is I had double pneumonia in both my lungs. And understand that I was a little bit out of shape because I traveled a lot, had a nice expense account, but I didn't smoke or anything like that. And so I didn't have those things going against me. So they said, okay, well, we're going to, we got to call around and see if we can find an Ecmo machine here in the Midwest. And they're very, very hard to find. And lo and behold, the doctor there in Muncie, God provided a way, once again, as he always has for us, and he found us an Ecmo bed down at
St. Vincent.
I'm sorry. My COVID, my short-term memory kind of leaves me, and I apologize. And that's something I'm hoping to get back. But if you hear what I went through, you'll be surprised I didn't have more effects from it. So now when things happen, though, my wife will say, well, I know I told you that. I said, well, I've got COVID, Paul. Or I was in a coma and it didn't count when you told me. But anyway, so they go, ask my wife, they said, okay, we've got a bed at St. Vincent, and we've got an Ecmo machine down there for you. Do we have your permission to put him on it? Take him down there and put him on it. He says, this is the last ditch effort to save your husband. This is it, Shirley. The Ecmo machine. And of course, my wife said, yes, absolutely. So this was on a Sunday. On Sunday night at midnight, they flew me out off the telepath in Muncie, down to St. Theo, 86th Street in Indianapolis, on a helicopter. My first helicopter ride, don't remember it, Shirley. I want to know what's going on next time I have one. And I remember my wife telling me, and her and Mackenzie telling me, said, it was so surreal, and I can't say it like she does. It was so surreal to know that your loved ones living on that helicopter, on that Lifeline helicopter, and to see them leave and to see them land, because they rushed together, got some clothes together, and were down at the hospital before I even arrived. Understand, I was out of it the whole time. So I get down to the hospital, okay, and of course they run to the hospital because our daughter at the time was living down the west side of Minneapolis, and they run in and they go, well, you can't see it. There's no way, you can't see it yet. So the next morning they came. They probably slept about 2 hours, and they got the clothes on. They went in. They go, and they asked us, can we see? My wife says, can I see my husband? And the nurse goes, oh, hold on. Because, all kinds of things would go through your mind then. I can't imagine what you felt at that point. And so the doctors came out. The Ecmo team is comprised of 5 doctors. These are the guys that are the best of the best in their hospitals. And these guys are experts. And one of the doctors came out and asked my wife, he said, okay, how old was Jeff? At the time I was 56. Okay, if we put him on this Ecmo machine, okay, the chance of his survival is 40%, because every decade that you're alive, it's not that you're not going to survive this. But like I said, I didn't have a choice. This last ditch effort to save my life. So, and typically what they do is they keep you on the Ecmo machine for a couple of weeks at the most, to see if you're going to, your lungs are going to respond. Because what this does is, I've got a nurse with me 24/7 in a little room, okay, about the corner, besides that corner where that window is, back to this corner here by the hand railing, just a small little room, and there's someone in there with me 24/7, basically wearing a hazmat suit. And what they do is they pull the blood out of your system, and then they recirculate it, they pump oxygen back in your blood. It's almost like a kidney dialysis machine when they do that to clean the blood, okay? So they were doing this, every 10 or 15 minutes, sweetie?
24/7.
24/7, they were doing it. And so they put me on the Ecmo machine, and this was on, I guess it would have been August 1st when they did it. And then, so I'm on the Ecmo machine for that first week and a half in August. There's really not much going on. I mean, I'm not improving. I'm kind of holding still. And then August 10th was our anniversary. And of course, I was unable to attend that anniversary. But the doctor, one of the guys on the Ecmo team, came to my wife and said, this is only like a Tuesday, okay? By the end of the week, if Jeff's not improved, we're going to have to pull the plug. That's going to be it. Because he's not improving. And of course, this is a special day for us, our anniversary, Shirley, and she's crushed. But, but God, we are Christians, we trust in God. And I don't know how you get through this world without having Jesus, without trusting in God. Whether you go through a trial like this or what, you just can't do it. Life will just kick you in the teeth, okay? So she was just crushed, but she said, I know Jeff would want to take me out for dinner, so Mackenzie went with her, and they went to a nice dinner, okay? Which I'm glad they did that. But she was just crushed when she went in there. They knew that she was upset and all that kind of stuff. So they said, we might make a decision. Okay, I'm going to start getting into just how powerful God is. Okay, we all know that, but this testimony just really exemplifies just how powerful God is, how powerful prayer is. That next day, okay, they did this twice. Told her they were going to make a decision by the end of the week. Twice they told her, they said, we're going to pull the plug. That next day after they would tell her that, Tanika, God would intervene and my numbers would start improving. She did. God took that out of her hand, Shirley. Okay? And Tanya, right? Your name is Tanya. That's right. I remember that. Okay? He took that out of her hands. He said, I am God. I am the master of the universe. I am control. I hold the thread of life. Because he does. He is. And listen, I've got a great respect for our doctors and our nurses. I love them. I do. Made friends with a lot of them. But I know the great physician. And he's the one that has the first and the final say. He is the Alpha and Omega. Is what he is. So the next day, my numbers would improve every time they said that. And so they're like, well, typically you're off the Ecmo Machine, for after 2 weeks. I was on for 5 weeks, buddy. 5 weeks. And I kept setting records, and that's not the kind of records you want to set, by the way. And so during that whole time, they're like, my blood pressure got to 200 over 180. I didn't stroke. They thought he's going to have neurological damage. He's going to have brain damage. He's going to have kidney failure. He's going to have heart trouble. He's going to definitely need the assistance of oxygen, all that kind of stuff. Do you guys see any oxygen tanks on me right now? You don't. Because God healed my lungs. Is what he did. Okay? So I came out of that when they woke me up from that coma, and on the Ecmo Machine, they woke me up, just about 2 months. They woke me up, and they were all in a circle, the doctors and my family and all that. And they were like, the doctors had told, let me back up a little bit. So the head of the Ecmo team, Dr. Dubretti, which my wife said was a little bit arrogant, a little bit smug, came to her one day and said, and the guy didn't show any kind of faith from what I've been told when you're talking to him, unlike Mitchell. But Dr. Dubretti came to my wife and said, I just have a feeling about this guy. I just have a feeling I can pull him through. That was God working with me. I really believe that. Working through Dr. Dubretti. And then Dr. Mitchell, which was a strong Christian man, would always counsel with my wife and my daughter, and I would always pray with them. And I remember Leslie was telling me one day Dr. Mitchell came to her and said, is Jeff a Christian? And she said, absolutely, we're all Christians. And she goes, and he asked her, he said, why are we fighting so hard to save Jeff if we know where he's going? So he could be walking on the streets of gold. And my wife said this, and I love her reply, that's God's will. That's not my will. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate that. Let me say this on that point. Don't ever put yourself or your family in that position where you don't have a testimony and you don't have Jesus in your heart. Because in my mind, I mean, God can do all things. Two things God can't do is lie and fail. Amen. Other than that, he can do it all. Okay? But don't put yourself in that spot or your family, because could you imagine, Sister Tanika, if I'm laying in that hospital bed and I never left word that I had Jesus in my heart? The torture, because I got news, it begins at the grave. It doesn't end at the grave. Eternity, if we lived here, we lived for 90 years, that's nothing compared to eternity. Nothing. Okay? So, So Dubrady came to her and said, I've just got a feeling about this guy. And so we started tweaking the numbers and all that. And then at the end of that, they said, okay, at the end of that 5 weeks, they said, okay, well, I got some other bad news for you. The chances of him coming off this and surviving this Ecmo Machine is now 5%. 5%. I know. I saw you move your eyebrows up and down. I did too when I heard that. I'm hearing all this, I'm like, whoa, when I come to. And 5%, so I was 1 in 5 percentile that actually was able to withstand this, okay? So they were around me, trying to wake me up, and they were yelling at me. And I could hear them, but there's nothing I could do about it. Because I was so weak, guys, I could not open my eyelids. That's pretty weak, okay? So they're all waiting for me to open my eyes, and he's like, he's not coming to. We're trying to wake him up. We can take him off this sedation and pull the intubation tube out of him. And I remember vaguely, honey, hearing him yell at me. And he was like from here to here, yelling as loud as he could, Leslie said, at me. And I couldn't open my eyelids. And the guy said, finally goes, I got an idea. So I guess he brought my eyelids open, Brother Frank. I was staring right at him. And I know I was thinking, would you quit yelling? but I could talk, okay? But he was yelling at me because, hey, Jeff, wake up. But praise God, God woke me up, okay? Because in my eyes, I was gone. Even though I was in that bed. And my mom, my sister, my wife, my daughter, and all of them could see me, I was gone. Okay. Why I was in the coma? I had 2 dreams. You know, people say, you know, when you've got a loved one in a coma, talk to them. Hold their hand, squeeze them, whatever. I don't remember any of that. I know they did, but I mean, I don't, it wasn't registered with me. It wasn't. And at that point, the 2 dreams I had were as follows. The first dream I had, I was being intubated, which I really was, back at the first hospital, back at IU Health in Muncie. I was being intubated. And I remember being intubated, and I remember seeing, and God, I believe God sends comforters to us. And God sent my dearly departed mother-in-law, Pearlie Crockett, Leslie's mom. My wife is the baby of 10, okay? And they are an amazing Christian family, amazing parents, Oscar and Pearlie, that very close walk with God. Okay, the whole family, just beautiful. And so Pearlie had passed in October of 19, and she was, and God had sent her to me in my dream and said, Jeff, excuse me, God's not ready for you yet. We need for you to stay back on earth and take care of my baby. And she said, and I'll tell you, you're getting ready, this is going to be the fight of your life. And she was not wrong. She was not wrong. So the whole time I was in the coma, this is what I was living. Even though in my mind I was. Hard to explain, really. The second dream I had was quite amazing, really. I was in the hospital. I mean, in my dream I was in a hospital, but I was physically in a hospital, okay? But in my dream, I was in a hospital, and the hospital was cold, and it was dark, and it was lonely. And I felt sad, Tanika. I'd never been so sick in my life. I just felt really sick. And I felt like Sister Shirley just giving up. But I didn't. So one night I said, that's it, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to put my clothes on, out of the closet, and then before the next morning, before the nurses come in, I'm blowing this popsicle stand. I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. I'm giving up. Do you like that blown popsicle stand line? Kind of funny. Yeah, we can have fun in the Lord, okay? We don't have to be all uptight and stiff, okay? I said, I am leaving the hospital. I can't take this anymore. Funny thing happened. I put my clothes on. That next morning, I couldn't get out of that bed. I couldn't get out of that bed. Do you know why I couldn't get out of that bed? Because of all your prayers were hitting me right here. And I had that faith, but all the prayers were hitting me, Sister Shirley. And they were keeping me down in a hospital bed. And they were propelling me. Jeff, don't give up. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. And I thank God for all the prayers that you beautiful people sent up in my name. Because I'm telling you, that's my message. The power of prayer. Prayer changes things. Right? Prayers are powerful. And I think that when we sometimes we underestimate God, Sister Danica. We go, well, we're going to pray. It says pray without ceasing. We're going to pray and, maybe it's going to happen. Well, we have to understand, God's will is different than ours. God's timing is different than ours. Okay? We got to understand that. We're impatient, especially men. I'll step out of the pulpit and say that. But it's true, okay? So when you think about the fact that I could get out of a hospital bed because those prayers were keeping me there and giving me the power to fight the devil, to say, no, get under my feet in the name of Jesus. Because Jesus prevails over the devil. Good prevails over evil all the time. Okay? We might think that people that are evil out here are prospering. They are not. We're all going to take account for what we do here in life, right? We all are. So I can get out of bed. And I'm like, why can't I get up? I can move my legs. And I know those prayers are hitting me. And that is just the power of the prayer right there. So I came out of that, 5% chance of survival. And then they're like, okay, well, when he wakes up, we don't know what we're going to get. This guy's been out of it. My wife said I had MRIs, CAT scans, after CAT scans, looking at my brain, trying to find a brain probably. Looking at all that. And so when we got out, when I came to, they put a trach in me. I've got this nice little scar here, battle scar, tells the story. They put the trach in me, they pulled the intubation tube out of my throat, put the trach in. Then they ran the Frank and trach, all those rhyme, okay? So they ran the trach, the vent into the trach is what they did. So I was still in the vent, okay? So there's a neat little device called a speaking valve. And I could not speak for 3 months. And the last month, my wife and them became very good at lip reading. It was tough. I couldn't even lift my finger, lift anything in my body. My body was almost physically dead, wiped out. So they put that speaking valve in, and they're like, okay, well, we don't know what to expect. His blood pressure was crazy, heart, kidney, oxygen, whatever it's going to be. I want to step out of the pulpit before I tell this other part here, because it's you got to try to keep a sense of level. And I've got a big sense of humor. You know that, Tanika, as you do, and as Veronica does. And so they put that speaking valve in. What I should have said was God is good, but I didn't do it because I was trying to be a little ornery. Okay? They put that speaking valve in on me, Shirley. And I thought, what could I say to let them know that the Jeff Smith is back that they knew before he got sick? So they put that valve in, okay? And I'm thinking, okay, what can I come up with? That's the most excitement I'd had in a while. But think of something like that. And so they put that valve in, I'm like, okay. Now I know growing up that most of us have seen Frosty the Snowman, right? And when they put that hat on Frosty, he comes along, right? Right? So when they put that speaking valve into me, I repeated Frosty the Snowman's line. And I go, happy birthday, is what I said. And my wife goes, he's back. He's back.
You knew.
But it brought it made us laugh a little bit. Made them laugh because we've been quiet, everyone been crying enough, right? It made them laugh, and I thought, oh, that's going to be kind of funny. I'll come up with that. That way they'll know I'm somewhat back to what I was. I'm not going to say normal, just somewhat back to what I was. Okay? So everything's going good. I'm off the Ecmo machine. Things are improving. I'm feeling better. They take me to this hospital called Kindred. It's a rehab hospital. I still can't quite get back up to Muncie. Okay? And so they take me to the Kindred Hospital, and I'm there for about a week, and lo and behold, I've got another hurdle. And I got another call out to God. God, hear my humble cry again. It's me again, Lord. Come to you for prayer. And my gallbladder tipped. My gallbladder went bad because of COVID. And I went into what's called septic shock, which is very serious. And my core temperature, I'd never heard of this, by the way. My core temperature in my body got down to 92 degrees. 92. They put this thing, my wife said, they put this thing called a bear blanket around me to warm me up. They rushed me in an ambulance down to Community South in Greenwood, and I was there for, about 2 or 3 weeks? And they did emergency surgery. I couldn't have my gallbladder removed. They put emergency drains in there, in the side here, to drain the bile out of my gallbladder, to keep me from going sepsis, which would have killed me. The irony in that, after fighting COVID, as hard as I did, then to have that other one. But once again, Tanika, God was there. And he brought me through yet another valley with the gallbladder. So my wife's like, oh my gosh, Jeff, come on. Let's just get this thing on a path to recovery. And so they bring me back up to Muncie. We've been trying hard to get back up to the hospital here since we live in Muncie. And they got me back up here, and I started on a floor called A.M.E, and that was where I met a great, beautiful guy by the name of Dr. Shetty, and he was just phenomenal. Him and I established such a good friendship. That's when they started working with me, Tanika, with rehab. Because I was going to work on rehab before, but Mr. Gallbladder decided that, hey, we're not ready yet, we can start on rehab. So I'm working, I go to A.M.E, I'm starting on my rehab. I have to be a speech therapist because you gotta learn how to swallow again. I was on a feeding tube for 4 months.